Am I overreacting to your rather forceful email? Girlfriend is wanting me to attend her work's corporate party as a plus, and I don't feel comfortable with it. Am I, a male 31, girlfriend female 27, of roughly 2.5 years, work is planning their usual annual company Christmas party, where employees and their partners/spouses, or supposedly preferred, are invited to attend for an overnight stay, meal, party, open bar, etc. I've never been to the previous events due to a work commitment last year, and the year prior we were still quite a new couple. She works for a large nationwide recruitment agency, and each year a different city's office hosts the presentations of the officers. And those not from that region normally stay in a fancy hotel booked by the company. They are in the process of confirming the total number of guests, and she'd like me to go. As a heads up, we are very open and communicate well, I'd say. She's told me that on her first work's Christmas party, after a few drinks, she went to an after-party in one of the guys' hotel rooms and engaged in a threesome with 2 dudes from her office as a bit of a bucket list experience. After thinking about it, I've said to her I'd rather I give it a miss, but I'm totally happy for her to go on her own. She's told me it's important to her from a career perspective, as it's good for her image, to get to meet in person with people she works with from other regions, and can socialize with the senior management, and that nearly everyone's from work partners attend. We have since been arguing all last week, and I have been accused of not supporting her career, as I've never attended her previous work events, being immature and shaming her. I really honestly don't think any of this. It was something she did prior to meeting me. We do hold differing views on sex, as for me it has always been something special where she views sex as something that's just a bit of fun. This isn't an issue and has actually been good for us, as we've learned a lot from each other. I'm even comfortable with the fact she still works alongside these 2 guys. I know she has had a lot more sexual partners than me, but as she has always viewed casual sex when she was single as a bit of fun, and I know deep down it wasn't meaningful. Accepting a sexual history is one thing, people are entitled to a sex life, I'm cool with that. The past is the past, but this feels different, as it feels like the present, and socializing at the present party with my girlfriend and the 2 males that have been intimate with her is a different task. It makes me feel awkward/uncomfortable. I thought it would be easier to say I'm not attending, ... Having asked if others at her work knew, she said yes, as one or both of the guys did spread rumors afterwards, and also has been office banter and nicknames about it. She's said it doesn't bother her. She is confident and the type that would own it. The place gives me finance bro vibes. The thought of shaking hands, making small talk and sharing a table for a meal with guys who have had sex with my girlfriend is difficult. For context, we are in a good place, rarely argue, and have recently been talking about marriage, having kids, etc., and really have a great relationship all round, and don't want to do anything that would harm her relationship or career. I posted about my situation on another subreddit, but feel like this might be more helpful for me. Am I overreacting? Turns out strangers on the internet are actually very helpful. Update 1. Hi everyone! Since there were a few comments on the original post and I had a bit of spare time, I thought I could provide an update on the situation I posted about a while back. First of all, I really appreciate all the advice and feedback I received, both positive and negative. It gave me a lot to think about, and it also gave me the ability to structure some important conversations between my girlfriend and I. To summarize the original post, my girlfriend and I have been together for nearly 3 years. She invited me to her company's annual getaway Christmas party this year, which would involve me needing to be socializing with co-workers, including 2 guys she had a threesome with as AONS before we were dating. I wasn't uncomfortable with her sexual history itself, but I felt awkward about attending the party and being at the same table/event with these guys, especially since they still sometimes joke about it, and the use of what I considered disrespectful nicknames for her. On top of that, I was worried there was a possibility I could end up being the butt of these jokes too, which made the idea of attending feel even more uncomfortable. I initially declined to go, which led to some tension and an argument between us. One point I just wanted to clarify, based on some of the comments and DMs, is that I'm not ashamed of her past at all. Before we started dating, I knew, due to being part of an overlapping social group, she had a sex-positive outlook, and she was open about the fact that she had been with around 50 guys. That was never an issue for me. We may well have different experiences, as I've only been with 3 long-term girlfriends prior, but it wasn't something that held me back from pursuing and starting a relationship with her, and not something that has ever been an issue. What made this situation feel different was that I'd be in a room, possibly sitting at the same table for dinner, with people who were still actively referencing that past experience. I've never had to deal with that face to face, and the idea of those same people making jokes with me in the room, or even about me, made the situation feel more socially uncomfortable. So, Dowtale. After some deep conversations and listening to each other's point of view, my girlfriend helped me understand her perspective more clearly. She expressed that being the only person from her office without a partner would make her feel awkward and isolated, and possibly lacking social support during the event. She was also surprised and somewhat upset when I changed my mind about attending, as it raised a small doubt that I was viewing this with the idea of shaming her. We also had a constructive conversation around her views on sex positivity. Her confidence in celebrating that part of her life has helped me have a different perspective. She reassured me that any teasing and nicknames at work don't bother her, so why should it bother me? Any terms like SLUT should not be seen as insults, instead something to be proud of, and offer her an ability to own and reclaim a woman's sexuality without shame, especially since men involved in stuff like that are held to a different standard than her. If she can be proud of herself while confidently standing by her choices, then I realized I should wholeheartedly support that as well. Anyway, I've decided to go to the event. I still have some reservations, but I realize it's important to show my support in her work life. I trust her, and if she's comfortable in that environment, I want to be too. At the end of the day, I'm happy with how open and unapologetic she is about her views, and I don't want to let my discomfort, or something as trivial as the possibility of being the target of jokes, get in the way of supporting her fully. We've had some great discussions about careers, sex, relationships, women, and society that have only made our relationship stronger. Thanks again for all the advice, it's been a huge help. Update 2. Hi all. I previously posted about how I was apprehensive about attending my girlfriend's Christmas party as a +1, as I thought it would be awkward for me, as she had previously had a threesome with 2 guys from her work when single at another company event. Now that I'm off work, and the various festivities and hangovers have finally gone, I've had a bit of time to process and write up an update about this work party that I had previously felt apprehensive about. After posting, here could I please state that obviously I appreciated any positive messages and DMs that have helped me. However, could the bombardment of negative DMs about my relationship please stop? Obviously, after talking to my partner, we decided it would be good for us to attend the night as a couple. I've gotten over my own issues and mindset. Any awkwardness is my own doing, and that her own past choices that she is happy with are not something that I, as a supportive partner, should be holding against her, or something that stops our relationship progressing. Anyway, the venue was pretty fancy in a nice hotel decked out for Christmas with decent food, live music, and an open bar, which helped. To be honest, my work nights out are pretty low-key in comparison, and also was good to get a free meal and night away. Meeting her co-workers went about as well as could be. Since my girlfriend works in a company with different teams in different cities, the tables were arranged like this for the meal, so we ended up sitting with her team, including the 2 co-workers I had been worried about. Most people were friendly and welcoming, although I do have to admit the company does have that finance bro vibe I thought it would have. There is a lot of younger people, on good salaries, with large commission bonuses, who I can see are quite competitive, and admittedly that type of person and environment isn't my scene. I'd find it pretty toxic. But I get that it's not my industry, and that's the way these companies work. After the meal, we then moved on to the free bar for the evening for everyone else to mingle. One of the guys was surprisingly easy to get along with. He was with his partner, and he came across as genuine and didn't try to make anything awkward. He introduced himself politely, and afterwards chatted for 5/10 mins at the bar with me about normal stuff, like work and football. Nothing that would be uncomfortable for any of us. Honestly, seemed like a decent guy. The other guy, I felt, was a different story. He wasn't rude or anything, but there was an energy about him that rubbed me the wrong way. He was there on his own, more happy to chat directly with those he already keeps company with, and had this cocky vibe. At one point, he did make a comment, which I could have interpreted as a dig, but it was vague and wasn't something I would justify with a reply if it was. The biggest thing for me was that the people who said I shouldn't go were wrong. I had this fear that we could be the target of jokes or that people would see me as weak for being uncomfortable about the situation, but that didn't happen. Most people either didn't know or didn't care about any past, and if they did, were respectful enough to leave it alone. The advice I got here about showing up for your significant other and focusing on our relationship instead of what others might think turned out to be spot on. The only thing that really mattered was how she and I felt about the night, and she was over the moon that I was there. She told me afterward how much it meant to her not going on her own, and honestly, that made any awkwardness I felt totally worth it. Am I the a-hole for not going to my brother's wedding? A lot of context here because it's important. I, female 22, used to attend a highly conservative college where my brother, male 23, met his now fiancée, female 21. While I was there, a terrible situation came up. A guy, let's call him Brandon, took advantage of me, non-consensually obviously, and someone walked in on what was happening. Instead of anyone talking to me, rumors started spiraling. Before I knew it, Brandon's whole friend group got involved and were highly concerned about us breaking the rules of this conservative college. In this group was one particular girl called Sarah who is notorious for snitching to faculty and getting people in trouble because she feels too convicted. I took a large step and talked to Sarah. I confided in her what really happened and confessed how confused I was and how muddled and messed up my mentality was at the time. Mind you, this all was happening within 48 to 72 hours. I realize now I should have stepped forward and gone to faculty, told the truth and made sure Brandon took the fall for his own actions. However, purity culture is vile and terrifying to combat on your own after hearing so many horror stories from conservative institutions like this one. Sarah sat and listened to me as I cried and poured my heart out to her, begging her to come talk to me before she decides to do anything. I told her that if she truly felt she had to go to faculty, that she would come tell me and we would go together and I would tell what happened. I just needed more time to process what had happened to me. Later that night, Sarah went behind my back to faculty and told a shimmering version of the story that was not hers to tell, in which both Brandon and I were at fault. This resulted in Brandon and I getting expelled. However, in typical purity culture fashion, Brandon was quickly invited back to school, where I was left alone and drifting. No one asked me what actually happened, or had me give a statement. Judgment was dispelled hastily with little to no conversation except for Sarah's. Back to the topic of the wedding, bear with me. My brother's fiancée and I had been roommates through all of this. I was telling her everything that was happening as it was happening. There had even been previous moments where Sarah had accused me of things my brother's fiancée had done, and I took the fall for her because I loved her. We were incredibly close. After I got expelled, she went radio silent until she and my brother began dating a few months later. Fast forward to wedding planning and it comes to light that my brother's fiancée is not asking me to be a bridesmaid, I am my brother's only sibling, but she is asking Sarah. The idea of attending this wedding, which is a destination wedding and not ideal for a full-time college student and part-time teacher like myself, is absolutely nauseating to me. Being in the same room as Sarah is difficult enough, but to see her be viewed as someone closer to my brother and his future wife, after they both know what she did to me, is so offensive, it breaks my heart to pieces. I just don't know if I can go. Hid it. Yes, my brother knows the entire situation, as does his fiancée and our parents. Update. Well, many have asked, so here's the most current update. My brother and I have talked. I retold him the whole story of what happened and he says he knew all of it, except for maybe a couple details involving Sarah. He took our conversation and conveyed it to his fiancée, who also already knew the full story, and took to defending Sarah. She, his fiancée, also reinstated that she's choosing her closest friends to be her bridesmaids, and that's not me. Just to reiterate, I do not care about being a bridesmaid whatsoever. What is hurtful here is that my brother and future SIL just don't care about what Sarah did to me. Anyways, his fiancée then went to Sarah and somehow talked to her about it. Sarah's rebuttal was that she was concerned about Brandon's mental health and didn't mean for me to get caught in the crossfire. Keep in mind, I specifically went to Sarah and talked to her personally before she reported anything to staff, asking her to include me if she chose to have any conversations. She intentionally excluded me and got me expelled. Why my future SIL didn't just call me and talk about this, I will never know. In my brother's words, no final decisions have been made, but it definitely seems like Sarah is remaining as a bridesmaid, and they are asking me to sing as a consolation prize. I'm refusing, obviously.